Hey, soul sister. Welcome back for another episode. I have Gary Salyer in the house. Gary, yay. It's so good to have you here.
Thank you, Junie. It's great being here. So much fun.
Oh my God, we've been yapping for a while and connecting. I've been watching you and listening with you or about you. I've been hearing about you. I've been watching you and listening on summits with so many golden nuggets that you bring about love and partnership and having relationships last. And I'm just so excited to have your voice on this podcast. So thanks for carving out some time today.
Well, thank you, Junie. It's always an honor to be with someone like yourself. This is very much fun. And we had a great conversation.
Yes, and we're going to have another one and we're going to have some fun. Let me share with the soul sister who you are. Gary is a transformational relationship mentor. And for the last decade, Gary has been in private practice offering singles and couples heart-centered transformation so they can rewrite the rules for love in their brains and create a love that lasts. Dr. Gary speaks to a national audience as a featured expert on various celebrity TV and radio shows such as Hay House Radio and Coast to Coast AM. He's the author of the groundbreaking book, Safe to Love Again. How to release the pain of past relationships and create the love you desire. And you can find him at GarySalyer.com. And of course, that will be in the show notes. Such great work, so potent, so beautiful, so great to have you here. Let's dive in. You ready?
Let's dive in. Let's go deep. We love going deep.
Let's go deep. All right. Love. We're talking about love. We're talking about love, and we're talking to a soul sister that wants more of it, specifically in the dating realm, specifically in finding a partner and having deep intimacy and having lasting love. So I'm wondering if we could just start there. Like, what sets the stage for lasting love?
Well, what sets the stage for lasting love? There's a couple of things I'd like to call, and we'd just like to say that we know it can be difficult out there, right? And there's sort of an epidemic of undeservingness out there, or people feeling undeserving, but you were born worthy. You had to be taught to feel unworthy. And so I'd like to say that when you're having those things, don't let it get you down. It's not always about you. In fact, most times it isn't. So when you're out there, you're going to be, let's just put it out there. You've got to have some resilience to find some lasting love. If you're in the dating trenches, there's going to be the avoidance or the very anxious who show up, and it's not personal. They're going to run. They're going to make a connection. And the first time they can make a connection, their brain isn't thinking, oh my God, look at all the things wrong with her. They're thinking, oh my God, remember the last time I was loved? And then all that fear from childhood or a previous relationship they haven't processed comes in, and it ain't got nothing to do with you.
Yes.
So you got to remember, you're worthy, and and whatever it takes to reclaim your sense of worthy from all that childhood pain or a previous spouse or relationship that didn't give you the love you deserve. You need some resilience to call in lasting, because you don't have to kiss as many frogs, but you will have them in the pond.
Yeah.
Yes.
Absolutely. And I love that you're bringing that up, because so many women will say, I had this date, I did everything right. I felt so good about what I dressed, how I dressed, what I said, and then he didn't call me. And then they took it personally. And there's so many things that could have happened. Of course, we know that. And at the end of the day, people are bringing all of their life experiences to that date. And if they haven't unpacked it, if they are having the not-good-enough-itis, as I call it, it's not about you. And yet there are things to look at. I mean, I always say to the women that share that with me, it's like, let's take a breath and let's not go down that rabbit hole of no one's going to love me, I'm screwed up, all that stuff. And at the same time, it's like, let's remember that you are worthy of love, and let's unpack it, and let's make sure that you have that resilience, because that word, I love that you said resilience. We need to be able to bounce back, because there are going to be those bumps in the road with men on those dates that are not prepared and bringing their bag of shadows along that could potentially side rail the whole thing.
I think the second thing, and if you want to date to set up lasting love, you have to ask first, what sets up lasting love?
Yeah.
At the core of every great relationship is a we, thus the thing in the back of it. Right.
Yes.
You know, there's a we. Every couple that's come to me in the last 15 years, one or both partners have a hard time, or they don't have a full right to be in a we. Frequently, it's mostly, someone who thinks it's safer being a me than a we. There's something about being meshed that or it feels like enmeshment the first time you get commitment. Sometimes you get the opposite, someone wants to be enmeshed. But so what you have to do, you have to, build that from the beginning. You are looking for signs of the we. Now, I know we're looking for 6'4" and looks like Christopher Reeves. Or the new guy, the new Superman, right? I forgot what his name is. But we would all look, or we're looking for X, Y, Z, and it's okay to have a short list for that, not a long list. A long list is a relationship killer. That looks like Christmas. But you're looking for signs of the we, and some need you're looking for. Are they are they sharing influence? Now, that's a big thing. Notice how the guy showing up is sharing influence.
What do you mean by sharing influence?
Sharing influence means they're checking in with you. Now, I know someone said, just make a plan, but if a man checks in and is making, and in subtle and on open ways with what you like, right? Especially at first, he's not a mind reader. Ladies, he's just not, if he's starting to make these love maps, so he's getting to know you and he is sharing influence, it means that if you call up and say, I know we had a big date, but I'm feeling pretty tired. I'd just love to go for a walk on the beach. He's able to make that pivot. Okay. So it's sharing influence, because one of the things that comes from couples, and you might as well know what this is like, 82% of the time that men don't share influence, there's a technical term in the research literature. They're called divorcees.
I'm like, you had me at the edge of my seat there. I'm like, what's he going to say?
They're called divorcees. So it's important. And a lot of men in this culture have, the traditional male sex role. And I know there's all sorts of continuum on this, right?
Sure.
But the traditional one gives men all right to be empowered, but not as much right to connect, versus the traditional role for women is all right to connect and not much for power.
Right.
This needs to come together into something that's more healthy. Make sure, just notice, is he coming in one up? You don't want him coming in one down either, because then he'll resent you. You don't want to be put on a pedestal you never wanted to be in the first place.
Yeah.
But you're looking for the signs of the we. Check your gut. It's not mental. Do you feel there's a beginning of a cozy we? Now, I'm not talking about the guy that 2 weeks into the relationship is pressuring you to have a monogamous, exclusive relationship. Now, I'm not talking about that type of anxiousness trying to close the deal because he's afraid love's going to go away, right? I'm talking about a healthy noticing that there's a gradual opening of we-ness.
Yeah.
And it will be little at first, as well as it should, and it should start building. If it's not building, if there's a cap on the salary cap, so to speak, that tells you another thing.
I also love that you were saying, trust your gut, trust your intuition too. Because if it's not feeling right, there's something going on. There's something missing, or there's something happening. And so if there's the watchful, there's the, oh, he's being attentive. He's, showing up for me. He's being there. There is that we energy that you're talking about. And if there's like, something is off here, that we need to explore that. And I love that you brought that up for sure.
Well, the other thing too is you have to do your own work on being in a we.
Yeah.
It's not just men that show up that. You have to look for yourself. Are you giving signs, appropriate signs of being we? How comfortable are you with really prioritizing that relationship? A lot of women, when they get past a divorce, they've been really hurt. They circle the wagons, and the wagons are called their children. And sometimes a good man, they're so focused on children, or sometimes later in life it's grandchildren, then that the prospective partner realizes they're never going to be better than fourth or fifth. And from working with couples, I can tell you there's no difference between men and women who are fourth or fifth in the relationship. No spouse wants to be anything other than one. And so you have to be ready to prioritize the relationship and that person. And
agree, totally agree. And I'm going to add in, the kids and the grandkids, also careers. I see a lot of women in the second half of life, now that their kids are older and they're single, they're putting a lot of energy in their careers. And I'm one of them for sure. My son left at 16. I got divorced, 12 years ago. And I was like, oh, it's finally my time. And how does one bring in a relationship when they're second, third, or fourth? That's not going to fly. And I'm curious, you're talking about men and women both. And I think this is a question that a lot of women have, which is, are men doing the work? Because a lot of women are doing the work. A lot of women are listening to the summit. So there's so much out there for women, learning how to receive and how to heal the past. And when it comes to, and they're the nurturers, they're the givers. And I'm curious about the men and their work, and how a woman might be able to even broach the topic of the we part if they're not feeling like they're the priority, or they're not feeling that influencing that you were talking about. Anything you'd like to add around that?
Well, I will say, that up until the last couple of years, my client were, you guessed it, mostly women, right? Even John Gray, years and years ago, said, and he says, when you write this book, just realize that, if a man reads this book, it's because a woman forced him to.
Yes, I've given many a book to many a man.
And occasionally there was that unicorn guy that would show up to do the personal work, right?
Yeah.
I don't know if it's COVID or it's the culture is warming up, but since COVID, for the first time in my 15 years of doing this, about a month ago, I realized that 55% of my clients were men.
Wow. Wow.
That I said, well, I'm having quite a few men here. And I just looked at the list and oh my God. And they weren't just men that had been dragged in by a wife, right? So what I think is, and I will do, but I will also make a caveat. Some of these are younger, but not all of them, I think COVID did something. That's my working.
I agree. Yeah.
I think when you take away all the possibilities and, and suddenly you're in a situation where those first dates aren't happening, you come face to face with the fact that all that traditional stuff without connection is a pretty hollow form of success.
Yeah.
I just saw a meme on Instagram, or the 20 books a man should read to be not a single relationship is in there.
Wow.
Like what a impoverished set of books. But men are. And some of them are confused because they feel a little judged sometimes, and sometimes in getting comfortable with their emotions. the real thing for all couples is how well you share feelings, or you process feelings. It's all feelings. That's what I said in the book. There's 4 feelings. So if you're looking for a we and you're looking for that, how well do you both give each other that feeling of welcome with joy? Welcome with joy is, God, it's so good to see you tonight. Or you wake up in the morning, you go, good morning, gorgeous.
Ah,
You know, worthy to have your needs met, right? That's, when you ask for a request, they're attuned, you get a attuned response back. You don't get somebody, brushing you off, but they're interested in there, and they're proactively beginning to notice what your needs are and making a list and checking it twice.
or 3 or 4 or 5.
And then do they cherish and protect you? Now, cherish is a really interesting. People think cherish, and it means to hold dear, but it's about seeing your essence, the essence of just you. They did a research study with children who had attachment objects, these little tiny things that, like, you can see up in the mirror, that was one from my son many years ago, a raccoon. And they wanted to see, they brought them in, and they wanted to see what attachment was, what was fueling it underneath, right? And this was a unique way of looking at it. And they brought these children in, 3 and 4, who really liked and couldn't fall asleep without their little binky or their blanket or their bear, right? And they had a big box with a cleverly disguised lab assistant in there, and they would ask the child if they could replicate it. Now, if the child was attached, but not that attached, they would go, yeah, you give me another one of Mr. Bear. I'll take another bear, right? But if they were real attached, the type like they going to sleep with it every night, right? Yeah. They go, you can't, there's nobody else like Mr. Binky.
Yeah, mine.
It was what they concluded was there was an essence.
Yeah.
To that they could not get elsewhere, or that
love it.
Whatever the essence was, and it was unique for his child. What takes you from, and so ladies, what takes you from dating to commitment? Fear of missing out is when you're not attached to the essence. Oh, there could be another better one now, but if there's an essence, that man is attached to you, and you, maybe it's the way you sing in the shower, maybe it's just the way you move, maybe it's the way you are with children, maybe it's your quirky sense of humor, whatever it is, right? Yeah. And it has to be more than just in bed. I'm just going to say that, right? Yeah. All right. If that essence is there, that's what says there's no fear of missing out, because you can't get it elsewhere. Love it. That move, when they see your essence and they fall in love and they cherish and protect that essence, that's what moves you from dating to commitment. Yeah, that's when it's special. That's when you're feeling that deep connection and feeling seen. And I hear that so often from women. It's like, I just want to feel like they really get me, that I feel really seen and cherished. And I love that you finessed that with the essence. That makes so much sense. So much sense. I love it. We're going to take a, go ahead. You need to feel empowered too.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Feel empowered, feel strong, feel part of the journey, the coupleness. And it's not just a one-person show, for sure.
Are we going to get to the 6 seconds? You said you wanted to talk about that.
So what are the 6-second moments that I have a hard time saying? I haven't done my tongue twister exercises today. What are they, and how do you actually, what are those small moments? And tell us more about it and why they're important.
So I call this, when I'm especially working with couples, but it's important for singles to notice whether you're good at it and then the person you're dating is good at it. Love is won and lost, not in usually the big ticket things, but in the little moments. It's small things often. It's in the 6-second moments of a relationship that most relationships are won and lost. You know, a lot of times we think, oh, we had that big, hairy, wonderful vacation for 2 weeks in Paris. And us men especially tend to think, well, I've got my big ticket item here. I'm good for the next 6 months. But if that 6-second moment you were talking on the phone and you said, I think my mother has cancer, and they're busy scrolling through their phone going, and they miss that moment, that's going to wipe out a lot of the credit. And if you have 1,500 of these little moments, then it's not so good. I mean, one of the things that I got the 6-second moment from, John Gottman at the University of Washington did all these 40 years of couples research. And from training with him, I know that what they did is when they took the video from the Love Lab, they broke it into 6-second moments.
Wow.
And coded everything. And I go, okay, I'm going to follow his lead. Now, what does that look like? I mean, 6-second moments isn't just, looks like you need some cream in your coffee there, hon. I'll go get it for you. 6-second moments can even be even smaller than that. I was once dealing with a couple in which they kept bringing themselves into these horrible fights. And I began to notice that he was missing little clues. Now, his mother had always parked himself at front of his face. So from the time he was an infant, the way when you have an intrusive mother, we know from the research, children will look to the side to try to regulate them because it's too much stimulation. So this is real early patterning in him. And I notice he's looking down every time she's trying to talk. So he's not picking up when something is landing or not, when the head goes back, when the eyes go up.
Huge missing opportunity. Yeah.
And the funny thing was when I worked with him for 45 minutes to look in the face, and it was hard because
Must
it was
have been hard
for him. But when he learned to look her in the face, I said, did you notice her head went back? Now, this is where you tweak that word in this just moment. Don't wait till she blows up 10 minutes later because she's been ruminating on this word that landed wrong.
Yeah.
You see the head go back, you see the, and within we work with that for 40. I said, you can, he says, I can't talk at the same time. I said, I think you can talk and chew gum at the same time. And it took him 45 minutes to learn to look, to respond. And it was a lifetime of learning not to.
Yep.
2 weeks later, they come in, they said, oh my God, it was like a miracle. Most of the arguments just went away because he was able to make a repair. Now, what I'm saying is this is where attachment really happens.
Yeah.
We Instagram and Facebook are filled with, oh, we're in Paris, or, we're at this special place, and all of those are nice. But I guarantee you at that special place in Paris, what's, have you ever gone on a vacation with somebody and it went right or it went wrong? What happened? It's the 6 seconds.
To me, it's presence. Yeah. I mean, that's what I'm hearing. It's like, are you really present? Are you really with this person fully, energetically? Because they can have the bells and the whistles and the, hey, honey, I've got tickets for the cruise. And if you're on the cruise and you're by yourself the whole time and they're not noticing those moments, those precious moments, and catching them and really going, hey, I noticed something's, like your body movement, or I noticed your head going back instead of, waiting for the shoe to drop. I mean, that's the preciousness of intimacy, to be able, into me see, as we hear all so often, the ability to let somebody in takes two. Somebody has to actually be present to notice and be there.
And there's a difference between a guy. Sometimes I've heard women say, oh my God, he's read the 5 love languages. But this guy, he's read, but he's doing it all from his head, and he's not using his right brain to read, and he's not good in the moment. I mean, and I've been there. I mean, in my first marriage, she complained that I didn't catch what she needed a lot of the time. So what did a good academic do? I went out and read 5 books on women. And I swear to God, a couple of weeks later, I missed something. She goes, I think you missed it. I said, that's interesting because the book said this.
Uh-huh.
Then I said, and that happened several times. I missed something. I said, well, you know, the other book said that women wanted this. And finally she turned to me and said, read me.
Yes, yes, yes.
You are looking, I mean, notice for yourself and the other, attachment is all how well you stay present, the eye contact, and notice all those physiological cues. If you're really looking for lasting, how well do you both stay in the present moment? And will you trigger each other? Yes. So the third thing you got to notice is how do you deal with triggers? We all have our triggers. Are both people able to reasonably soothe themselves and then process so they don't keep tripping over the same thing? Now, if someone has huge volatile triggers, and it could be, and it can be, I've seen both men and women have this. This is a huge predictor. And if you get into contempt and, you know, hugely things like that, you've got to be able to keep. It's a 94% predictor of non-lasting. So singles need to really rework that pain.
Yeah.
So the next doesn't pay for the X. And that's the third thing, is get clean with yourself. Notice if you've got a set of jadedness.
Yeah.
Feelings about men or certain situations you're not sure about marriage anymore.
Yeah, the ideas, the stories we tell ourselves, the baggage and the pain and the fear and all that stuff that we're bringing from other relationships. I mean, that's why I have a year-long program called Midlife Love Mastery. And the women, as I say, look, I can give you hot dating tips and strategies. Listen to my podcast. At the end of the day, if you're not able to be present, if you're carrying your bag of shadows of and resentments from the past, you're going to project on them, and it's not going to be pretty. And it's like we need to do our own work. And I'm really glad that you're talking about that aspect too, because we are human beings and we've all had these experiences that have shaped us and have brought us to this place. And if there's been betrayal or death or just some really shitty behavior, you know, I mean, all these things can really affect us showing up fully for our next person. I do want to bounce back a second for the presence thing. I love that you brought up the triggers, and I think that's so important, because that is certainly something that can derail instantly if you're bringing in all that stuff from the past. With that said, with the 6 seconds, and you were talking about men and being analytical a little bit and reading the books and left brain and maybe not being able to have that eye contact. Women have to work on that too, of course. However, we are talking to women here, and I'm curious if they are dating somebody that they see has potential, they have that we energy going on. They're all the things that you know, the components that are like, ooh, this is feeling good. And they're noticing that piece, the challenge of them to make eye contact, the challenge of them to be able to really hold that space and be so present, because it's not their MO, like that man that sat with you for 45 minutes. What might this woman offer to that person that wouldn't be shaming and you're not listening to me, or I'm not feeling cherished? You know, how might they broach that topic? I mean, it could also be hey, I've heard this really great book, but at the end of the day, it's still a book. The knowing me, reading me, what might be an opportunity for them with that, if they find that to be true?
Okay, so we're talking about feedback, not criticism.
Correct. Feedback, not criticism, because the last thing we want is to criticize our men because they want to make us happy. And no one likes to be criticized, because then we feel like something's wrong with us. So feedback, yes.
Nobody gets criticism and says, gosh, can you give me 5 or 6 more examples of that?
Yeah, hit me some more. Thank you. I mean, we might, that's another topic, but anyway, yes.
Yeah. So, you know, I mentioned the whole thing with the books, because just because they've read some relationship books doesn't mean they've changed their attachment styles.
Right.
Now, if they're not making eye contact, if they can't read your feelings, I tell men all this, that women use feelings as their emotional radar. And if you can't ping them back or read them, you've got some people that get real upset, because this is how women navigate, and you should too. When you get your emotional radar up, you will understand what's going on in a relationship. Women won't be such a mystery. If they are not making eye contact and they're not feeling you, it's what makes people feel love. Phrase I use them, you need to feel felt. So when we feel felt, we feel attuned to, we feel known, seen, and loved. It is feelings. The shock of my life as a man, it's feelings. It's not knowing, it's feeling. To give that, feedback. Most couples spend 90% of their time trying to adjust the relationship by talking about what went wrong in the past, often with criticism. And that's a losing maneuver. The winning maneuver is to tell each other what you want in the future, to make it give each other a game plan. So the feedback wheel is something I wish everybody on the planet. It's short. This is short, ladies. It cannot be more than 10 to 12 sentences, 10 preferably. The moment you start getting into stories and details, you are loading up criticism. And it feels wonderful and cathartic, but it will not do the we and the relationship one bit of good. You simply give the fly on the wall description. So what I noticed is when I'm talking to you, that sometimes I don't get the eye contact back. And a lot of times. That's it. Fly on the wall. It's as objective. He doesn't know you're being a jerk. You're going to be an emotionally unavailable. And
no finger pointing. You're just stating the facts.
Right. The fly never uses narcissistic or anything like that. Right.
Yeah.
And it's one or two sentences. What I just noticed is, when we're going for dates, you tend to not make eye contact me and hug me when we first meet at the door. Right. And the story I tell myself, or what it means to me, is that I'm not seen. And that makes me feel really sad or scared in the relationship. And what I would like in the future, this is the goal. And what I would like in the future is when you show up to a date, we can have that beautiful moment of eye contact, and then we can kiss or whatever it is you need.
Yeah.
So it's short, fly on the wall, 2 sentences, 3 at the max, and this is where most people go wrong. And you can't keep, and what I notice, and what I notice, and what I notice. Now it's just one at a time, ladies.
Yes. Yes.
What it means, and then how you feel, give him the feeling, and then give him a game plan, a recipe for success. And if he can't follow that, if he can't make that, then you're with someone that doesn't attune, probably someone with more anxious, more avoidant style, I should say.
Yeah.
And then, if you want to, you can invite them to personal work. If they're not willing to work on the we, if this is another sign of the we, by the way, is attentiveness. If they're not willing to do that work reasonably joyfully, then you are worthy of far more.
Let's stop there, because there's no better place to stop than you are worthy of more if they're not willing to show up and meet you. And I loved how you shared what I call clean talk, being able to not make the other person wrong, but being able to share what's going on inside of you in a simple way that they can hear it, and then give the instruction, the invitation, if you will, of this would be great if we can make this happen, or can we do that? So I loved how you said it, and I really want to underline the fly on the wall. So nothing else I want to say other than perfect, spot on. Loved it. So good, hon. And I know you have a free gift for this soul sister. Do you want to share about the guide to lasting love?
So I have a guide for lasting love, right?
Yeah.
And I talk about a right to create your own experience in my book. So there's 3 versions that fit the 3 different paths. There's more than that, but there's one version for people who are afraid to date again. They're not dating, but they want to get back in the game. There's another version for those who are in the game and saying, my God, this is a hamster wheel that keeps showing up the same way. Where do I find the right one? Right. So and then there's for people who are partnered, maybe you're seriously dating or you're married, and that's a different track. So how do you keep it when you've already got something going? So you get to choose what version. If you go to Gary Salyer, well, the link is in the
Yes,
show
the
notes.
link will be in the show notes. Absolutely. I love that those 3 avatars, because people are entering in different stages of their life and need different support. Oh my God, that sounds like an amazing resource. Thank you.
There's really good video. I give some really good advice. I had one couple tell me they were dating, they were both twice divorced, and they contacted me and said, this video series saved our engagement.
Oh my God, that must have meant so much to you. You're doing such good work.
They privately sent me the pictures of their honeymoon in Paris.
Aw.
And I was like, okay, I wasn't expecting this when I was busy.
Oh, wow. That's so beautiful. Gary, such important messages in this podcast, in this episode. Thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate your wisdom and your work in the world. It's really helping people not only find love, but keep it or leave it if it's not the right one, because they do deserve someone who can meet them. So thank you. Thank you so much for your time.
And thank you. You have a beautiful presence. Your people are fortunate. Thank you.
Aw, thank you. Thank you. All right, Soul Sister, that's our episode for today. I'm sure you are going, wow, 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 and feel hopefully more inspired because you have some new tools to use as you embark on new love and lasting love. If you haven't subscribed to the YouTube station or liked and subscribed to the Apple podcast, what you waiting for? Go do it, sister, so you don't miss a single episode. And until we meet again, mwah.